I'm Karen Bonnell, and I'm a divorce and co-parent coach here today to welcome you to the Parenting Plan Handbook, a 4-part video guide to help you build a strong and child-centered parenting plan. This is my colleague and co-author, Felicia Malsby-Soleil.
Thanks, Karen, and I'm so excited to be doing this project with you. I've been an attorney now for over 20 years, and I practice primarily in family law, and I do non-adversarial divorces and separation. And by non-adversarial, I mean parties who do not want to involve the courts, parties who do not want to litigate and fight over their issues. And so we talk about things like engaging in mediation, engaging in the formal collaborative process, and other creative ways to problem solve while still being able to get the parents through the legal implications that are involved in transitioning their family. And that's what I've enjoyed about working with you so much on this, because you're such a pioneer in co-parenting coaching and mediation and helping families really through these serious transition.
Divorce is really a family change. Divorce is about a family that's transitioning, and it has legal implications, but its real central piece is about family, about children, about parents restructuring from intimate partners to strong co-parents.
Right. And the way I simplify that for my clients is I just say, we're redefining what your family looks like. You don't lose your family just by virtue of making a change in how it's structured.
Correct. And interestingly enough, it is the end to an intimate partnership, but it doesn't delete a family for kids. And that's what we want to be certain about.
Right. So I think the questions that people ask as they're entering into this phase of changing their relationship and changing their family, a lot of times they begin with the negative connotations first. And
doesn't divorce have a lot of negative connotations still in our culture, even though 50% of families face this transition?
Right. So in divorce, obviously starts with a D, right? So you and I talk about D words a lot of times.
That's right. Divorce is the D word.
Right. To kind of normalize what's going on with respect to how they're thinking as they're making decisions to move forward. Mm-hmm. And if I were to define some of those words, I look in terms of one of the most common things I hear is, will my children be at a disadvantage coming from a broken home, in the term broken home, which...
Yeah, not a D word, but boy, isn't that something. Broken
Right.
home, no.
Right.
No homes are broken.
Right. And how will they successfully navigate getting through school now that they also have to, a lot of times, live in 2 homes, when they have one parent coming to extracurricular activities and the other parent doesn't come, or if they're going to be jointly there, what's it going to feel like? Socially, academically, and within the family structure, will they be at a disadvantage? And I think another common component to people embarking on changing their family is the word deception. And that, to me, really talks about the level of trust that exists at the beginning of the transition. And what I remind people of all the time is, you've made the decision to get divorced or to separate, and usually that's because you have broken trust. Something has occurred along the way, perhaps a long period of time in which your trust has slowly dissolved, perhaps. And so I ask, what's the level of trust you're bringing to the beginning of this transition? Mm-hmm. And we want to make sure everyone's functioning with honesty and transparency. Can you say a little bit more about that?
So I caution parents when it comes to talking to children that it's not deceptive to hold back information. What children need is age-appropriate information that is accurate, not necessarily the truth.
Right. And I think when I talk about deception too, it's between the 2 parents.
Correct.
Are they both going forward with the best interests of the children in mind, and they both are meeting each other in the same place, as opposed to somebody perhaps having a hidden agenda?
Correct.
And always wondering, if my trust has been diminished in the relationship, how can I trust this parent to move forward as a co-parent with me if we're going to do something new and different?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, for example, the only reason that he or she wants the children 50% of the time is so that they don't have to pay child support. That would be an example of a hidden agenda.
Right.
Versus, no, I really want to be an active and engaged parent, and although I may not have always been that in the past, I want to step up and step in now so that I really can be there for my children.
Right. And just to clue viewers in, we didn't mention this at the beginning, but with respect to the child support, we're going to get into that in another segment of the course. But I just want to make sure we all understand that child support and residential time are not necessarily tied together. All the viewers should be very careful about looking into what particular rules apply within their jurisdiction when creating a parenting plan. But what we are talking about here really is global themes that go around no matter what kind of paperwork you have to fill out, whatever your residential time or parenting plan is called in the jurisdiction that you're in, you will still face all of these same particular issues. It's just how you apply it to the legal piece in your jurisdiction. I also want to talk for a minute, going back to our worries and concerns with respect to parties initiating an action, how they often ask how destructive and how damaging might this transition be, and the process that I choose, and doubt comes into play, another D word. How do I know I'm making the best decision? How do I know that I shouldn't just be staying in until my kids graduate from high school, or creating some other milestone that shows that I've really worked as hard as I can?
Right.
Is it the right thing to do?
Well, and oftentimes parents at a time like this, or spouses, do take that extra trip to the marriage counselor to do that discernment work. And that can be an important step, so that by the time they actually enter into their divorcing or separation process, designing a parenting plan, they're clearer that this is the right decision now to the best of our ability. That's often a good step. When we talk about that divorce is destructive for kids, I kind of pull back just a little bit, because it can be. Divorce can be very destructive for kids. But divorce itself is actually a family transition. As you pointed out, it redefines the family structure. It doesn't have to be destructive.
I think when we talk about damage and destruction, it's really about what's the chance for recovery for my children,
right,
as well, and how will this impact them not only now but in their future.
Right, right.
And how do we set a tone through the process that we choose, the way we handle ourselves, and really teach our children, I always say, what a good divorce, if there is one, what a good divorce can look like, as opposed to living a legacy of something that is going to, the parents' fear is that it will haunt them for the rest of their children's lives into their own adulthood and their own relationships.
The very reason why we're gathering and doing this book is to prevent just that we would like to help you see the potholes and the lighthouses that are going to allow you to someday be wonderfully there at high school graduation, or wonderfully there for a wedding someday, all those life cycle events. Every step we take, starting right now, is building toward that future. So, for example, let's talk about what makes divorce destructive, because there are certainly some things we could do,
right, that
we can guarantee you will be harmful, or at least very difficult for your kids. One is hostile conflict. That ongoing battling that parents do with one another, intending to hurt, intending to create damage, intending to alienate, inviting kids to join me on my side against their other bad parent. That's called putting kids in the middle. No, I'm right. No, I'm right, right? Those kind of things. Or third, the other piece is when kids are afraid they'll lose a parent, either to emotional overwhelm, becoming depressed, falling apart, not able to cope, or by virtue of a parent leaving the family, going off to new relationships, or somehow no longer being connected to a kiddo.
Right.
Can I show you my drawing?
Oh, sure.
So, this is what I actually show. I show parents in my office. I just draw a Valentine's heart, and I put a line down the middle. And whether it's two moms or two dads, or a mom and a dad, this is what kids carry in their heart. And when we as parents can show respect, show care, stay child-centered, then our kids feel whole. When we aren't, that brokenness is in their own little chest. They feel it right inside themselves, often silently and secretly suffering with what's going on around them.
Right. And do you, have you heard the expression that when we talk about, similar to this heart, that a child believes that each parent is in them, that they're part of each parent. Oh, I'm going to get the clumped. You got to cut this part out. Oh my God. Okay. This is what I do.
A little moment of emotion. That's beautiful. Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
So each parent is in them, and when they're witnessing the conflict between the parents, what ends up happening is it's attacking them too.
That's exactly right.
Oh, okay, you guys.
So, you know, it's interesting, when our children are small, how often do we look at them and go, oh my gosh, you smile just like your dad, or your eyes are just like your mom, and suddenly now that's like an indictment of how bad you are in the animosity between upset, hurt, angry, and bereft spouses. So we do everything we can to shield kids from our adult conflict. It's not theirs. Children don't cause divorce. They can't solve it. It's not their problem. And it is an issue between our intimate partnership. It's an issue between the adults. And I often tell parents to tell their kids, hey, if it were just about being a mom and a dad, we wouldn't need to have this conversation. We're having this conversation because the husband and wife part of us or the adult part of us doesn't work.
So what can we do to turn this around? I mean, because so far we've really only talked about the negative implications and the fears and concerns. And before we get too caught up in just the negativity, the work that you and I have done together for all these years, and what's reflected in your co-parent handbook and the parenting plan handbook, is really about creating positive change, looking at moving forward with transitioning your family with optimism, with love, with care, with bringing your best selves, your best strengths. How do we inform these parents what a good divorce is and what you can do to avoid all of these concerns and allay their concerns and fears?
Right. Well, let's just talk about children for a moment first. And first and foremost, kids need to be able to love their parents openly, just out there. I love you and I love you, and it doesn't matter whether I'm in your house or your house, but I want pictures of both of you at my bedside. And you know what? My heart is full because I have you both. And my heart is full because you're both still in my life. You're both still loving and caring for me in some way. Now, I get that you're not both always there at the same time, but I know that I'm going to have time with each of you. Really important for children. Then they also need us as their adults in their lives. They need us to be confident guides. You know, I always say, if you got lost in the woods with your kids, you wouldn't start worrying about bears. You would say to them, I'm going to figure it out. We're going to get out of here alive. I brought water. Everything's going to be fine. With all the uncertainty and transition of this family change, we need to remain confident guides. The parents are the executive team. We'll take care of solving the problems, and kids get to take care of being kids.
And so how does that relate to then when you want to tell the children what's actually about to occur within the family?
Really good question. My experience is, as soon as parents have made the decision to separate, that oftentimes things just subtly begin to shift in the household. Energy shift, attitude shifts, the way they treat each other shift. Sometimes somebody's moved out of the bedroom, right? And so that's usually a good time to think about bringing the kids in on what's actually occurring, because in the absence of good information, children will make stuff up. And one of the things that they'll often make up is that they have somehow caused this. Children in their sort of natural self-centeredness sort of think they cause everything. So the sooner we can allay those fears, the better for kiddos. And then for them to see us continuing to live under the same roof, getting along, solving problems, working together, meals get cooked, dishes get done, all of those good things, people go to work. That's actually good for kids.
And so we have developed what we call a new model, as opposed to what maybe more people are more familiar with in the traditional litigation realm, which really tries to keep parties out of court. Parents and families, it's our belief, do not belong in a courtroom in front of a judge making decisions for them, that we want them to be self-determined and engaging in free will and
well-informed,
well-informed,
child-centered.
Child-centered.
Who knows better about your children than you and their other parent. Certainly no judge, and honestly no attorney.
That's right.
So absolutely.
It's how do we engage other professionals, which we'll talk about a little bit later, in order to create the team that is going to give you the best information and education and provide you resources so you can have the support that you need to move forward. And we were talking earlier about D words, and so you and I like to come up with our C words, right? And those are words like collaborate and cooperate.
Co-parent.
And co-parent. We've already said child-centered.
Conflict manage.
And conflict management. And again, these are oftentimes really just learning new skills, getting new tools from the professionals that you want to utilize on your team, and learning new skills to communicate with the other parent, with the children, and with other people who happen to be involved in your children's lives.
Bringing your best self forward.
Right.
In a moment, we're going to do a visualization that's really going to cement why this work is so important.